should you buy Costco stock, COST, the ticker symbol? Is Costco a good buy right now? Just before the holidays, Costco released their latest quarter earnings, and since then, Cost stock has struggled a bit. I wanted to break this down. The big bullet point takeaway from all the analyst calls was simply this. Membership renewals, there's a slight decline there, and this was concerning moving forward. But at the same time, Costco is still growing, especially opening new stores internationally, and there's a lot of potential growth there. Beat expectations on both earnings and revenue, yet Cost stock continues to struggle. Let's jump in. This is in my primary portfolio. So this is one that I've watched significantly, and I've had struggled with this a couple times because their margins are so thin, but they just keep performing. Now, however, I wonder, is Cost stock going to slide lower? Let's jump in. Here we are looking at the 4-hour bar chart on Costco, COST, Cost stock, the symbol there. You can see right in the middle of December, the latest earnings release, and had cleared 1,000 at that point. Big question, will Costco clear 1,000 and stay there? Also, another issue is Costco going to do a stock split? No input on that from me. If whatever they do on that, they do. So here's what I'm looking at with regard to Costco stock. The big if is growth regarding renewals for memberships. Costco itself continues to improve on their revenues. They continue to improve on margins, growth with earnings, but their margin rate is so tiny. But still, they have such a loyal customer base, and that's what it's really all about. So looking at the 4-hour bar chart here, what we're looking at, you can see going all the way back into summer. There's been some significant increases in Costco stock throughout the entire year, actually moving backwards even further. Going all the way back to the break in 2020 with COVID, you can see that Costco stock was trading roughly about I want to say 275 right before, 250 to 275. Since then, hitting 1,000. So a 300% increase at that point. Will we continue? My analysis always starts exactly the same. What does the entire economy look at? And this is one of the things that I look at some of these companies and I wonder, moving forward, we're seeing a lot of growth inside the economy right now. All companies operate inside this economy. If you look at the growth rate of the money supply, it's shooting up, making SpaceX look silly. It's shooting up straight up. Inflation follows suit. So the Federal Reserve is very likely to have to pivot from what they were doing over the throughout last fall, September and October, November, December. The Federal Reserve had been lowering interest rates, and I've been clamoring for I don't know how long, saying that's crazy. The Federal Reserve should not be lowering rates. The economy is too strong. The Federal Reserve did lower rates. Now they're probably going to have to pivot. Look at the jobs print we just got. What was it, the 10th? Just after the holidays. Non-farm payrolls printing 256. And I felt that the jobs report was going to be pretty strong. If you look at some of my videos going into the jobs report, I played the short end on a lot of these stocks. Specifically, I went long SQQQ ETF, which shot up like a rocket, did pretty well with that. Chickened out going into the inflation data. Inflation themselves, I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday, we saw PPI and CPI. Inflation themselves came in a little flat. But we're going to see more inflation at the end of this month, this end of this week, Friday actually. This could show that there is still price pressures. But all the job growth is going to turn into more price pressures. Then we got another issue. What's going to happen to the food on our table? Because now that we have President Trump in office, a lot of the people who are processing our food left. I mean, I'm seeing video after video after video after video. News releases are sort of looking at this like, wow, okay, this could be an issue. We're already seeing empty shelves with eggs. We might see some empty shelves with bell peppers, lettuce, celery, things like this. Common staples that come out of Kern County, California. So price pressures are very likely to remain elevated, and the Federal Reserve is very likely going to have to make moves. Over the course of this first 5 months, I'm going to be looking specifically at all this information, and my attitude is that the Federal Reserve does make some moves, probably raises interest rates somewhat. Not a whole lot. I don't think they need to go to where they were before. And this will, more likely than not, rock the economy, specifically the stock market. We'll see a slower pace of growth, which brings us back to Costco Wholesale Corporation. What will happen to cost stock? I actually think cost stock is going to come down. A lot of what I'm doing now with my own portfolio, Costco, is in my main portfolio. I'm sort of holding on to valuation in the sense that I'm a bit more sophisticated and I trade a lot of options. And so my goal is to keep my high water mark exactly where it is, despite the fact that stocks will move lower. So I'll either make trades, buy more shares, even though they might be declining a little bit, just keep adding as I go, or ETFs such as QQQ or SPY ETF, or taking on some of the inverse ETFs such as SQQQ ETF, which is an inverse ETF to QQQ. I'm doing things like this, and that's going to continue to be a big part of my strategy going forward, and I think we see a lot of this unravel in the first 5 months of this year. Costco's stock itself has outperformed the broader stock market. Here you're looking at QQQ ETF, and I think that both of these will come down considerably. By the end of this year, I think this economy is going to look quite different than what it was at the start of this year. And it really has to do with the fact that this economy is too strong and the Federal Reserve is going to have to do something about it, and then we're going to see some big price pressures. Quarterly revenue, 62.2 versus 57.8, so an increase on quarterly revenue from Costco. Net margins, 2.9%, holding steady there. Again, their net margins are pieces of paper. That's about it. And I've always kind of looked at them like, wow. But then you look at their revenues, they continue to increase revenues. And that's one of the things for me as a value investor. I'm continually looking for increasing revenues, increasing earnings. Name brand is such a big deal, and I think Costco has that. Earnings per share, $4.04 versus the same quarter the year before at $3.58. This was important to see these continually increasing numbers, but I don't know that we hold this going forward if the Federal Reserve has to take action. Price to earnings ratio, too rich. Plain and simple. We'll see where they come in going forward, but I think that we'll probably see a revaluation with this and that we'll see cost stock moving lower. All right, projected revenue. Projected revenue through 2024 to finish up the year going into 2025. You're $272 billion for revenue for Costco for 2025. But I call that into question. But I've been calling a lot of these things into question across the board because of what the Federal Reserve may have to do. We'll see if we have seen some of the downgrades in revenue growth rates. Let's see if that continues. Projected earnings per share, you're looking at $18.13, $16.56 for 2024, but we haven't quite seen the full piece on that. Treasury yield trading at 4.65. All right, this is the benchmark, the 10-year Treasury yield. You look at the 10-year Treasury yield and you ask a simple question. If I'm going to buy a stock, what else could I buy? And the 10-year is the benchmark, period. And your yield right now is 4.65. Costco earnings per share, Costco stock earnings per share, 18.13 going forward. Costco's price is 934.66 at the time, and that's a 1.94% yield. I think we're a little overvalued on this, and I think moving forward that price to earnings ratios are going to sort of move into line. I could see a big drop in Costco stock. This is one of my main portfolio holdings. So it's diversified out. I shouldn't say main one, but Costco stock to me is one of those ones that it took me a while to even become a customer of Costco because they're kind of up the road a bit. I have to put some effort in to go to Costco. Plain and simple. Like about 45-minute drive. And those guys get money out of me every time I walk in the door. Far more than I'm willing to admit. Plain and simple. And I'm not alone. But the economy will shift. And because of that, I don't know that Costco is going to hit their numbers. And because of that, Costco stock, in my take, we see some downside movements. It's more driven by the economy, number one. Number two, the valuations. I think Costco stock is overvalued at these numbers, and we should see some dipping. Given that, long run, Costco is one of the great companies. Continuously increasing revenues, continuously increasing earnings. Margins are super thin, though. It's one thing about them. I've always been like, wow, anything else? But they've got that name brand. And every time I walk in that store, they get my money. Make sure to hit that like and follow button. I am doing content on my Substack channel. Make sure to hit the link there to follow me on my Substack. We'll see you in the next video.